Good morning, everyone. This is Brian with EnGenius Technologies. Today's topic is EnGenius Cloud. What we'll talk about is we'll do a cloud overview. We'll actually go into the cloud demo. We'll go into my actual network. And then we'll talk about cloud hardware and some advantages and promotions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those questions during the webinar, and I'll try to answer them at the end. So with that said, I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you. So EnGenius Cloud. So the EnGenius Cloud solution consists of the cloud management platform, which is a cloud portal. You can log in from pretty much anywhere. As long as you have internet access, you can log into that system. That system manages cloud access points and cloud switches. So there's a range of cloud access points that we'll talk about later in the presentation, but we have indoor and outdoor versions of access points. We also have Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5 access points. And along with that, we have a number of different switches, anywhere from an 8-port switch all the way up to a 48-port switch with gigabit, multi-gigabit, and 10 gigabit switches, and we'll also talk about that. So we have cloud switches. And then we have a mobile app, which is called EnGenius Cloud to Go. The mobile app pretty much is identical or resembles the interface as much as possible, but the mobile app is very helpful. It allows you to do a lot of management from the app itself, control and change configurations and so on through the app. So it's a really great component to the cloud, but these are the main factors or the main components to the EnGenius Cloud. So you have the management interface, cloud access points, cloud switches, and mobile app. So what does cloud or EnGenius Cloud, what benefits does it provide to our customers? It allows the ability to oversee your networks in a single pane of glass with really visually rich insights. You can get really granular into a number of different things: switch configurations, access point configurations, client timeline, for example. The system scales to pretty much any business size. You can easily expand networks when your business is growing. There's really no limits. Add as many cloud network devices as you need. Each account can support up to about 100,000 devices. What I mean by devices is cloud devices such as access points and switches. The system also provides 24/7 control, monitoring, and troubleshooting. So you have access either through the cloud portal or through the EnGenius Cloud to Go app. So you really have true 24/7 access to the cloud interface in itself. The system is really built around giving our customers a minimal point of entry, which means there's no licensing fees whatsoever with the cloud solution. It's a full-featured system that allows you to deploy access points, switches into a number of different areas or environments with no additional cost. So there's really a minimal point of entry using this solution. There's minimal learning curve. You can easily add in devices. You can easily scan, register, and auto provision network devices into the cloud solution. And part of the demo, I'll try to show that to you today. But it's very, very easy to use. And by the way, this system has a built-in chat system and remote support system where you can invite EnGenius employees into your networks to review configurations, issues that you might be having, and we can give you remote support just right from the cloud interface, and I'll try to show that to you as well. This system is really built on a advanced system. We basically use AWS Lambda. So we're using the most advanced, what is called serverless cloud infrastructure. So there's really no boundaries with servers. So you're not restricted to a single server and the resources of that particular server. With serverless cloud infrastructure, we use a feature called function as a service, or FaaS. Basically each function that you use within the cloud has its own scalability, and they all work together. What this allows us to do is to scale really, really high or scale really low very quickly. The system also allows us to provide a 99.99 reliability service level agreement, or guarantee, I should say. So your network is always up. We wanted to put a system in place that builds a system for new features such as AI, for example, and more. We're adding a router here shortly. We're adding a firewall, so it allows us to build in more features for our customers to meet different needs and to meet different vertical markets. So we wanted to build this for our future and for our customers' future. So let's really dive into the actual demo. I think this is one of the most important parts of the EnGenius Cloud, is to see how it works and what it does. So what I'll do is I'll go to, you can go to engeniustech.com. If you go to solutions, you can select cloud. When you select cloud, it takes you directly to a microsite. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to take you through the microsite, but this gives you a lot of great information. You can simply click login. When you click login, this takes you to cloud.engenius.ai. And this is where you can set up your account. You can either set up your account by just clicking sign up, or using one of these methods below, Google, Facebook, or Elite Partner. If you're Elite Partner, you can use those credentials. I have multiple accounts. So I'll log into my business account. When I log into my business account, you're going to see multiple customer sites within my account, which is fine because it does well for this example. So right now I'm logging into my particular network. This is the dashboard. So I'm logged into the EnGenius Cloud, and immediately I see my dashboard, and this really gives me a health check of my network with this chart right here. It shows me how many switches I have, how many access points I have, and how many clients are on this particular network. Currently, I'm sitting under Slamin organization. Organization, think of an organization as a customer site. If you're a school, this is your school, and then you could have multiple networks under your school, for example. But this is the dashboard. It gives me a high level view of what's happening on this particular network, such as throughput, what access points. I only have 2, fortunately. The top access points, what's doing most of the work within your network, top clients, top SSIDs. I have this top applications disabled right now, but this indicates if somebody's on Google, Facebook, and so on, and then top operating systems. So this is your dashboard, and you can see that it's already issues detected. It's identifying that I have high channel utilization. So what I would do is I would look at my channels and maybe rechannel my access points depending on what issues I see. So I know right away that I have high channel utilization, but it has to be extremely high for me to change those settings. But this is the dashboard. The next thing I'd like to show you is really important, which is called what we call as hierarchy view. And it's under this menu right here. So when I click this menu, it's going to show you a bunch of organizations and networks. And this is where I organize my workload or my networks or my customers. If I'm a managed service provider and I have multiple customers, I would create those networks here or those organizations. And under those organizations, I would create networks. To give you some examples of that, right now I'm sitting under my organization. It's alphabetical. So I'm sitting at the Slamin organization, and I have 2 networks. I have a Slamin network and a staging network. I also have hierarchies, which allows me to better organize my workload or my customer sites. So for example, if I am a Marriott and I have an East territory that has networks, for example, and a West territory that have different networks. So I have Marriott's on the East Coast and on the West Coast. I can organize those networks under these folders, basically. So think of this as a folder structure. So right now I'm under Slammin organization and I have these two networks. Let me show you EnGenius Technologies. If I go to EnGenius Technologies, you can see the screen changes very quickly, very rapidly. I'm now looking at this organization. Under this organization, we have 3 networks, our US office, our Canada office, and this is a test site. And then we have hierarchies. Just to give you an example of what a hierarchy is. East, I might have a New York network. West, I might have a San Diego. And Central, I might have a Chicago network, for example. And you can organize this in any manner that you feel or that allows you to work most efficiently for yourself. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my network and you'll watch the screen will update very quickly. Okay, we're back on my network. So we're under Slammin organization. I shouldn't say network. I'm under my organization. You'll notice that this little key right here is grayed out. It's because I'm under an organization. I'm going to go into a particular network. When I go to the network, this will ungray and it will make it active. And I double click on that network. When I double click on that network, it takes me into the specific network. So my channel, I have no channel issue right now. So it's changed. Obviously, that's an always changing status. So it's changed. So right now, you'll notice that the organization is underlined and Slammin network is underlined. And I can change networks and this screen will change based off of the information of that particular network. So if I change to another network, the number of switches, the number of APs, and the number of clients will always change and my statuses will change. All this information changes. But right now I'm sitting, I've dove into the Slammin organization, Slammin network specifically. That's hierarchy view. So hopefully that made a lot of sense. Along with hierarchy view, you want to provide, obviously you're an admin of your own networks, your own organizations, but you want to be able to provide other users, potentially you want to provide other network engineers, IT administrators, the ability to view your networks or help you support a particular network. What you would do is then use team members. So you have this vertical menu here. We just talked about the dashboard. We talked about the hierarchy view. We have this vertical menu. We have under the vertical menu, we have manage, configure, analyze. Won't go into this menu, not important for this webinar. We have team members and then we have organization. I will go to team members. Team members allows me to invite individuals into my network, into my organization, into my network to either have view rights over that particular organization and network or have admin rights over that particular organization or network. And you can simply do that by adding them using their email address. So I'm under team members again, and here are my team members for this organization and my network. I simply click invite, and I just use their email, and I put their email within here, and I set the permissions based off of what I want to give them. So I don't have anything under East or West. So if I wanted to give viewer access and maybe admin rights over a particular network, but they have viewer rights over the organization and my other network, or I could give them admin rights over both the networks, or I could give them full admin rights over all the organization and all the networks. I can also move this organization to another admin. So if I'm an admin and I want somebody else to be an admin, I would just simply put their email address in here, apply, make them admin, and then remove myself from this particular organization. So I'll cancel right now. If I select a particular user, I can delete that user. I can modify that user and change their status, their privilege settings if I need to. And that's under team members. So I can, this is basically multi-tenant, and I can add and delete different users, give them particular rights into my organization, into my network. Okay, so let's talk about we just talked about hierarchy view. We went directly to team members to give you an idea that you have multi-tenant rights over these different organizations and networks. So let's talk about just configuring devices really quick. So the EnGenius Cloud, what I'll do is I'll go back to dashboard. EnGenius Cloud allows you to do group configurations, and it also allows you to do individual configurations on particular devices. Let's talk about group configurations. Group configurations can be done under the configure menu. So you have manage and you have configure. Well, I'll highlight these two menus, manage, configure. We're going to go into configure and we're going to go to SSID. When you go under configure, these are group settings. You're setting group settings for switches and access points. So any device that I put into the Slayman organization, the Slayman network, it will take on these group configurations. So let's start with SSIDs. SSIDs are basically broadcast names that allow, you're creating a SSID for your access points. And you can see within my network, I have 3 SSIDs. In the world of EnGenius, you can have up to 8 SSIDs. So I could program 5 more SSIDs by simply just clicking add. Once I click add, it opens up a menu and it allows me to go into individual settings such as wireless, bandwidth limitations, captive portal, splash page. I can schedule when Wi-Fi is on and off, and access control, which is MAC blocking and allowing particular MAC addresses. I can simply click clone and I can clone a current SSID and then go back and modify that. So what I'll do is I'll just go back and I'll go into an existing SSID. So what I'm going to do to go into an existing SSID, I just click on the SSID name. I'll go into SlayNet, for example. So under SlayNet, you can see that I created the name SlayNet. That's my broadcast SSID. It's enabled, it's turned on, so it's broadcasting. I'm not hiding the SSID. I have it configured to operate, to broadcast on both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. I set the security type to WPA2 PSK, and I have my settings. I can also set WPA3, which is the latest wireless security, so I can do that also. I can enable things like 11R, 11W. I can do client mode. I can set NAT if I want to, or bridge mode. Currently, I'm in bridge mode. I can set VLANs. I can enable application analysis, which identifies what is being used on my network, such as, are people going to YouTube? Are people using Facebook? Are they going to Twitter? So it will tell me the application layer, layer 7 detection. And then I can go into advanced settings, which I'll show you. I'm using band steering. I'm forcing 5G. So every device that comes onto my network, I'm forcing them over to 5G if they can use 5G. I have no bandwidth limitations, but you can set bandwidth limitations on per client, per SSID. We give you some examples of what you can use or what settings allow you to do. For example, you have bandwidth limit for 1 megabit that gives them basic mail, web browsing abilities, and so on. So we give you some examples there. Captive portal, I can enable captive portal and I can use different authentication types for captive portal. I can actually do a redirect, and then there's some advanced settings that I'm not using currently in my home network. I can create a splash page, and I can use HTML code, which is WYSIWYG basically, or I can use a couple templates to create a splash page. Under schedule, I can actually schedule when the Wi-Fi is on and off. For example, if I'm a business, maybe my Wi-Fi is off on Sundays or the weekend, so I can do a custom Wi-Fi setting, or I can do always available at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and so on. So there's multiple templates I could also use. Access control, which I'm not using, I can block MAC addresses, or I can allow MAC addresses. It's just really depending on what what I want to do. This is all under SSID. And I wanted to give you a little more granular look at these different settings because when I register a device, my device will take on all three of these SSIDs. So any access point, as I mentioned, that I apply to organization and network will take on these configurations. So if I have 8 SSIDs, any access point I put on this network will take on those SSIDs. Each of those SSIDs can have different configurations. You can see that I have 3 SSIDs. One's operating on 2.4 and 5, one's operating just on 2.4, and one is operating just on 5, all with different security access and so on. Under configure, you can also, after SSIDs, you can go to radio settings. In my network, I'm meshing. So currently I have just indoor access points, but we have settings for indoor and outdoor settings. I won't go into great depth on this particular screen, but just to give you an idea of my settings, I'm in my channel settings is auto for 2.4 gigahertz, and my 5 gigahertz is set to 149 to 161. I'm on 80 megahertz wide channels on 5 and 20 on 2.4. My output power set to 23 on both radios. My minimum bit rate is 1 and 12. And then you can see down here, I'm meshing on 5 gigahertz. I have one access point wirelessly communicating to another access point, and they're meshing with one another. And so these are my radio settings. So any device, any access point that I put into SLAM and organization network will also take these configurations on. The outdoor is also enabled, but it does not have to be enabled. Cloud recognizes an indoor device versus an outdoor device simply through the serial number and the MAC address. These are group configurations. I won't go into more detail other than switch settings. You can do group configurations for switches. So any access point, or excuse me, any switch I put into the organization and to the network, I can set these settings for those switches, regardless of the port density. It could be an 8 port, 24 port, or a 48 port. They will take on these configurations for all the switches that are registered to this network in this organization. I can set VLANs, and there's multiple other things that I can do that I'll talk about here in just a moment. So that's really group configurations. That's all under configure. Now, if I want to go in and I want to make individual settings to my access points and switches, I can go to manage. And under manage, I have dashboard, which we looked at, access point, switch, topology, clients. We'll just talk about access points and switches. Let me go to access points. So under access points, I have two APs. One is, I called it garage because it's located in my garage. The other one's labeled living room because it's in the living room. You can see the serial number, MAC address, the model number, what radios they're, or what frequency channels they're on right now, what bands they're on, IP addressing, how many clients are attached to those particular access points, firmware versions, and so on. So I have details, reboot, and replace. If I click on the line anywhere, minus the edit button, if I click here, it goes into an expanded view. Under expanded view, it gives me channel utilization. If I have high channel utilization, this is where I'm going to go to check channel utilization to see where it's high. And then my throughput, and this is per access point. You can also see my configurations and my SSIDs that are broadcasting on this particular access point in the garage. The same is true here. Here are the SSIDs that are configured for this particular access point, and they're both meshing. And you can see this is my gateway access point. This is connected to the LAN. This is my meshed access point. This is wirelessly communicating to this particular access point. So it gives me a lot of great information under here. You'll notice that I have a lock key. I can unlock these settings from the group settings and make specific configurations. So I can just simply click and I can say, okay, channel 1, for example, or auto. Now, if you noticed in my group settings, I had auto channel under 2.4. I actually changed it to channel 1, just to give you an idea. My transmit power is on auto, and my channel widths are 20 and 80. The same is true for this particular access point, and I can also do this per SSID. You'll notice this access point, I have the SlayNet enabled, so it's broadcasting SlayNet. SlayRing, it's not enabled. It's not enabled. I unlocked it from the group, and it's not broadcasting SlayRing. SlayX is not broadcasting. This is a 11 AC Wave 2 access point. This SSID is broadcasting on my 11AX access point. So I know when my client device, such as my phone, I want to connect to this SSID because I want to be on this access point for the fastest speeds. So just to give you an idea, I can enable and disable SSIDs on per access point and change configurations per access point. If I go to details, I can dive into more granular information about the particular access point, such as logs, clients, what clients are connected to that particular access point, more configurations here about my SSIDs, what's enabled, what's not enabled, IP addressing if I'm going static versus DHCP, management VLANs. I can even take a photo of the particular access point and the location of that access point. Also gives me CPU and memory. This is real time, and throughput, the actual throughput that's happening through this particular access point. Under manage, I can also do the same with switches. I only have one switch on my particular access point, but you get the same information. This is really newer for EnGenius, where you have this really great interface for switches. So if I just click on the line item, not the edit button, but the line item, I get this expanded view. It gives me the port density. It's an 8-port switch, and the active ports, what's it plugged into, basically what the negotiation rate is or the speed is per port. Right now I'm at 1 gig on the first port. Port 2, I'm at 100, or 10100, I should say. Port 6, I'm at 1 gigabit. All these other ports are inactive or not active. I'm supplying PoE on this particular port, port 6, and this is my uplink port with the arrow. I have 3 VLANs set up, and then some general information about PoE. This is a 55-watt budget switch. I'm using 6.3 watts of power from this switch. So it gives me a lot of great information about the switch. I can also do details. And again, I can dive into the switch. Then I have all these settings right here. System settings, port settings. I can actually go into a port and configure a port. And I can actually disable ports. I can disable PoE, for example. I can disable data, for example. And this is grayed out because this is my uplink port to my router. But I can turn off ports. I can turn off the power of a port, which would turn off the power of a security camera, access point, a voice over IP phone, maybe digital signage, for example. There's a number, or a light, for example. So I can turn things off remotely. I can do this through the app. I can do this through the portal, just so you know. I can do mirroring, link aggregation. I can look at logs of the particular switch and what's happening on the switch in itself. So there's a lot of great information here: PoE budget, IP settings, DHCP, and so on. So there's a lot of things I can do here, just so you know. So individual configurations can be done under manage. So let me actually add a device and show you how to register a device. This is true for both switches and access points. As I mentioned, we will come out with a router, a business router, here in the future in Q1. So keep an eye out on that. So what I want to do is I want to use the vertical menu, and I'm going to go all the way down to the building. And this is called organization. And I have 3 areas here: inventory, security, privacy. I won't talk about security or privacy. I'll go right into inventory. Inventory is very important to understand. Click inventory. This is where I add all of my devices. This is where I add my access points, my switches. When we come out with a router, I'm going to add it into my inventory. And we have all used and unused. So you can look at the different, if you have unused inventory, it can show up here. So you can actually register devices and not use them. They can just sit in your inventory and wait to be assigned to organization, or excuse me, into networks, for example. If I select any of the access points or switches, I can deregister. I can remove it from a network. Right now they're assigned to Slayman network, or I can assign it to a new network. I can move my inventory around. And like I said, deregister it, register it, remove it from a network, and assign it to a network. And you can see who has done that, and that's been me. Okay, to register a new device, I have nothing selected over here. I just click register. I can just simply type in the serial number and register those devices into this particular organization. Right now I'm sitting in Slayman organization, and I can register using a serial number. The other way I can register is use the cloud app, the EnGenius Cloud to Go app. And that's the method I will use, and I'll try to show you how that works. So let me do that now. So just bear with me as I try to set this up really quick. Here we go. Okay. Let's see if it works for me. All right, let me try this again. So what I'm doing is I'm attempting to share my mobile phone screen. Hopefully it works. Okay, it is not working, which is okay, because I will just register using the serial number, if that's the case. Okay. Well, I was going to give this mirroring application a plug, but I'm not going to do that now. So bear with me. I'm trying it one more time. Not working. Okay, so I'm going to abort that and go right to registering via serial number. The app makes this go a lot faster, and I could use the app. So, okay. So what I did is I registered an ECW 115 wall plate, and so I just used the serial number. I would love to show you the app. So it says done register. I'm going to say done. You can see, okay, access point is registered. There's no name. I haven't named it. The model number, the serial, the MAC address, and I have not assigned it to a network. And it's assigned by my other email address because I'm signed in as this person rather than this person. So what I'm going to do is assign it to a network. Now this is really important because if I were to plug in this device right now, it would just blink at me and it wouldn't know what to do. So what I'm going to do is register or assign the device to a network. So assign, and I'm going to assign it to Slayman Network and assign. So now it's assigned to a network. Now it's ready to be plugged into the network. So give me less than 4 minutes. Just a moment. I'm going to plug this guy in. Okay, so I just plugged that access point in, so we're going to watch this thing come online. So what I'll do is we'll start to talk about other features within cloud. So it's basically registering one device. And you can do multiple at the same time. Okay, let's talk about clients really quick. So we've been under manage. We went to inventory, just added a device. We're waiting for this device to come online. So under manage, you can go to clients. And this shows all the clients that are connected to my network. So I can either go there from my dashboard or through this menu, manage clients. You'll notice under the dashboard that there's 6 on 2.4 and 7 on 5 gigahertz. And you can see that there's issue detected. There's an AP that's offline. I have 2 online, 1 offline. So we're just waiting for this guy to come up. So let me just click on clients. So under clients, it gives me the overall throughput. The great thing about the client list is allows you to do a lot of troubleshooting, understand who's on your network and where they're at on your network. And you can do multiple things under client list. This is called client list. I can select clients. I can favorite particular clients if I want to follow them. I can sort by favorites. And now I can track, this is my laptop. This is what we're using today for the webinar. I can actually VIP, block, or kick this client off. I can also look at the timeline of the client. If I click on the client itself, it will give me 7 days of history of this client device and how it was associated. And you can see that I'm associated to this SSID. I'm on 5 gigahertz, and this is due to the color. 5 gigahertz, I'm on channel 153. I'm at a negative 70 dB on the RSSI. I associated with living room at this RSSI, disassociated from this from the living room at a negative 66 because the client disconnected. And then here's my path again, and I can look at what's happening. I'm currently associated to that at a negative 66. And I can look at the path for the last 7 days. This really helps in regards to understanding what's happening with your clients and how they're moving through the network, indicated by this icon. And there's different meanings for the icon, such as roaming, band steering, and so on. So there's a number of different things that you can do there within clients. If I go back to the dashboard and click, oh, look, all my access points are online. We'll go and look at that access point here in a minute. So now I have 3 rather than 2. So under clients, you can actually look at the last associated access point, and you can click and go to that access point if you need to. And this is client timeline. And I can look at, okay, what SSIDs are being used the most over a day, week, or month. So let's quickly go back to access points. And here's that ECW 115. I'll rename it. Whoops. kitchen, and then it's currently broadcasting on 2 and 40. Here are my IP addresses for that particular one. No clients are associated with that. And it's currently wired, so it's also going to be shown as a gateway right now. It's using PoE to be powered up, so that's why that's there. And I can go to details, I can go to reboot. So if I go to details, I can dive into the access point now it's online. And here are the configurations. And so it's broadcasting all 3 SSIDs. If I wanted to change this, I would just highlight and say, okay, I want to hide or disable for these individual SSIDs. And that's basically getting a device on the cloud. I wish I could have showed you the app, so I apologize for that. So the great thing about cloud is that you can quickly do firmware upgrades, or you can put them on a schedule, and you can choose between beta firmware, stable, or previous stable, and you can grab more information about those individual firmware updates, but you can set schedules, and mine is currently, by default, it's on Sundays between 2 and 3. So it does automatic firmware updates for access points and switches. You can also set alerts. So for example, you can set alerts for APs and switches as well. And so you can receive those alerts through this little bell up here, this indicator up here, through the app or through email. That can be set up through here if you need to. Under the gear, you can set up here. Another thing that we added that's been great for our customers and great for EnGenius really is you have this little icon down here called Intercom. Intercom allows our customers to chat with us and ask for technical support, ask about particular features, ask if there's something new coming, or make suggestions on features. So you can do that right here. Another great thing is you'll notice this little ticket right here. If I want to invite a user, an EnGenius, maybe a sales engineer into my network to view my settings or to get help, I can generate a passcode, and I can set that for 1 hour all the way up to 7 days and just click generate. I can copy it I can copy that. And then within my message, I can simply just paste that in and then send that message or that passcode to an EnGenius sales engineer, and they can access into my network temporarily to help me. And so that's been a big feature for a lot of our customers. So with that said, what I'll do is I'll jump back over to the presentation. So that was the live demo. Hopefully you gained a lot of knowledge in that regard. And if you have any questions about that, please let me know. And in the future, I'll try to get my mirroring app to work so I can show you what the EnGenius Cloud app allows you to do. So I'll talk about that really quick. The app allows you to register switches, access points. It allows you to configure access points and switches, networks, SSIDs. Allows you to change radio configurations. You can enable, disable 2.4 and 5 gigahertz through the app. So you can do a lot from the app in itself. So let's talk about the hardware. So we're starting to build more and more. We're adding more and more to the lineup for cloud access points and switches. So we have a number of high performance access points, anywhere from 11AX to 11AC Wave 2. We have nothing lower than a Wave 2, 11AC Wave 2 or Wi-Fi 5 access point. My go-to access point is the ECW 230. It's a 4x4 access point. This is for high density usage, great performing access point. It does really well as a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port on this particular access point. I'm currently running the ECW 220. I like the 220. It works really, really well. It's 11AX. I get great speeds out of this particular access point. I don't have super high density within my application because I'm at home, but I do have a lot of clients. But this works for really well in general use. But I tend to recommend this particular access point We have a wall plate access point, which is the ECW 115. This is for in-room Wi-Fi. This is the one I just registered today. Then we have two variances that are outdoor, a Wi-Fi 6 and a Wi-Fi 5 access point. You can see that the price points above are pretty aggressive. So you're getting a license-free cloud with aggressive hardware pricing. So really a big advantage to using EnGenius with all the features that we just talked about and the hardware that you can choose from in regards to access points. Let me dive into the outdoor Wi-Fi. This is a newer access point. We have multiple customers that have made large deployments already and very satisfied with the performance. It's an outdoor Wi-Fi 6 access point. It's IP67 rated. So this can be installed anywhere from South America all the way up to North America, Canada area, no problems. Supports up to 400 concurrent Wi-Fi devices. It also has a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port on the bottom of that device. It's PoE compatible. It does not come with a PoE injector, so you would use it with a PoE switch, or you would just buy a PoE injector with that. It can be registered just like I showed you today through the serial number or through the QR code. So you can onboard this device very easily. So it has a 2-year warranty, as all of our all of our cloud access points do have that 2-year warranty with it. Switches, we have a line of multi-gig switches. Right now, they're all 8-port switches. We have 2 10 gigabit switches. This first one is a PoE switch. It offers PoE++, which is up to 60 watts. All of these switches have 10 gigabit or SFP plus uplink ports, but you have a pretty large PoE budget for an 8-port switch for this particular device, 420 watts. Then we have a non-PoE version of this. They're 10 gigabit on every port. Then we have multi-gig, 2.5 gig. This is our 2.5 gig PoE switch, 2.5 gig on every port, 10 gigabit uplink ports, and then we have a non-PoE version of that. So this is our multi-gig 10 gigabit PoE cloud switches and PoE switches. We have a line of gigabit switches, anywhere from 48 port all the way down to an 8-port. These are all PoE. You will start to see multi-gig non-PoE switch come from EnGenius. You'll also see higher density multi-gig switches coming from us, like a 24-port 10 gig, 8-port 2.5 gig switches, more non-PoE and PoE. So you'll see more switches coming from us, including the router that I talked about at the beginning. So let's talk about some advantages and promotions. So the advantages, some of the advantages, there's many advantages. There's the fast device registration. I actually typed in the serial number. I typically don't do that. You can simply turn the device over, scan the QR code, and add it in, and you can do that very rapidly, very quickly. A lot of our customers, what they do is they get an Excel sheet with the serial numbers, and that can be scanned in through a warehouse, for example, and you can add all those devices in at one time. It just depends on where you purchase the devices, but you can do that ahead of time, so you can register all your devices at one time. You have pre-group device configurations. You can go in and you can configure your SSIDs without buying the access points, configure SSIDs, configure switches without buying any of the hardware, and you can make all these group configurations within the cloud, no problem. And then when you add the devices in, you can go back and do individual device configurations, such as doing channelization, changing output power, disabling and enabling SSIDs on particular access points. So there's a number of things that you can do there. I briefly showed you the client device timeline. This really gives you that granular look of when a client comes on board and how they roam through the network. And you can use that as a troubleshooting tactic, or just viewing how all your clients are coming onto your network. We have a very intuitive mobile app, which I was not able to show you today, and I apologize. It's kind of disappointing, but the mobile app gives you a lot of great insight into the networks, your organization and your networks. I would say you could gain about 75% you can do 75% of the work within the mobile app. Obviously the portal has more in it because you have a larger screen to work with, but you can do about 75 to 80% of the work within the app if you need to. You have that automatic firmware update that I quickly showed you. You never have to go to our website, download a firmware, and if you're using cloud, download a firmware and then upload the firmware. The firmware becomes available on the cloud first, so you can actually make those updates through the cloud interface through a schedule, or you can force them right away. We also talked about the intercom tool. You can ask questions, make suggestions, ask for feature requests, hardware requests. This can all be done here. I didn't say this, but our sales engineers see this. Our product line management team sees this. Our hardware engineers and our software engineers see these questions from our customers. So it's a really great resource for EnGenius and for our customers to be able to use this. Then you can also request remote support. That remote support would come from our sales engineers, our product line managers, also our hardware engineers and software engineers, depending on what we're trying to do or what the issue may be. So we got great support under the intercom tool that's built into our cloud solution. Along with that built-in tool, we also have a growing sales team that handled individual territories that can help you. So they can help you with pre and post sales information. They can help you with pricing, where to buy, things of that nature. They can direct you on the right way in regards to the hardware to use, how cloud works, and so on. So you get a great support team here from EnGenius, and they're by territory. I'll make sure that everybody gets this presentation or recording of this so they have this information as well. I am running a couple promotions. When you buy a non-PoE switch, you can get a free PoE switch or 50% off a PoE switch, depending on where you buy that switch from. But we are running a promotion where you can get a free gigabit switch. In some cases, you're buying at 50% and you're getting the second one at 50%. Whereas in some areas of our channel, you can buy one, get one free. So it just really depends. But we're running a promotion, and you can simply ask any of these particular representatives from EnGenius to help you with that. But we're running a great promotion on our 48 port switch and our 24 port switch. We're also running promotions on our SFP modules, basically 50% off on all the SFP modules. It does not matter the quantity. You could buy 1 or 100. The SFP modules are at 50% off, so that runs until the end of the year. So just make sure you're aware of that and take advantage of both these promotions. These both run until the end of the year. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for today's cloud webinar. I appreciate your time, and I'll open it up for any questions if you have any.